again, a study in contrast. I won't spend a lot of time being critical of him in that regard. I will focus on me in that how you run will determine how you serve. How many of us have wondered, what is it that happens to people when they get into office? Most politicians, male or female, have come from a place of good heart. Most, not all. They want to do the right thing. But there's something corruptive about that, and I believe the money part of the equation is part of the deal. So when I decided to run, I made up my mind that I was going to have my own campaign finance reform process, and we've got the most unique campaign in the country. I don't know that we can win, and this good gentleman asked me the question earlier about, most of the time candor in America is not rewarded with votes. And I said to him, I'm not running to win. I'm running to stand for something, a set of principles that I believe in. And whether I win or not is up to the voters. And I mean that sincerely. I believe we can win. We're going to try to win. But that's not my driving motivation. I don't think that I can change the system if I become part of it. I'm known as a maverick. Some other people call me a mountain maverick. I'm called the anti-candidate. Ever read the Mountain Express? I understand you get it here on campus. I was their cover story last week, and there's a letter to the editor in there beating me up this week. And we have fun together, but I think the article called me the anti-candidate. I find it so fascinating that as all I'm doing is simply saying, I don't want to participate in that Buy America plan, and I want to stand for a set of principles. Not my principles. I'll tell you more about that in a minute, but a set of principles. But that's considered maverick or anti-candidate. I think that tells us what's happening to America today, how we're betraying the political process that was set up for us, how we're becoming what is one of my greatest concerns, a nation of me versus a nation of we. And I'll tell you that my party, the Republican Party, is as guilty of that as the other party is, and it concerns me greatly. This might be a good time for me to go into a little contrast on that, because that's one of my central issues. I am not about me. I am about we. I am concerned that we will become an island, a combination of little islands of self-service in America today if we're not careful, and betray the dream, and frankly, betray you young people by doing that. My generation, y'all should be furious at us, by the way. My generation is the first one that's in danger of leaving you a worse deal than we got. And what I mean by that, gosh, we're driving nice cars. Everybody looks nice here. We're in this beautiful place. Everything looks good. The concern is that America is in danger of being a car on a hill that's out of gas. We're going downhill, and man, we're keeping up with everybody. We may even be passing people if we'll keep our foot off the brake. But what happens when you get at the bottom? What happens when you hit the other hill? And that's my fear. I think we're undermining ourselves with inflationary monetary policy, waste, government expansion. You have a choice, by the way, in my view. Don't know that I'm right. You can have big government and little people, or you can have big people and little government. Pick one. You can't have both in my experience. I believe more in little government and big people. But let's talk about that me and we thing. I was sitting in my office a couple of week before last, got a call. One of our volunteers, guy that's with us today, John Batson. Thank you for helping, John. And John has the weirdest telephone ring in America. If his phone goes off, it's cut off. Okay, good. It's a real interesting jingle. But John gets a call, passes it to me, and says, "There's a guy that's mad at you here." And I said, "Well, who is it?" He says he's a retired admiral. He's mad about some survey you did. I got to talking to him, and the Military Officers Association of Western North Carolina had sent me this questionnaire that had, will you support, or where do you stand on our position on these 4 issues? Here's what we believe in. What do you believe? I wrote them back, wrote them a nice letter, said, regrettably, I can only support one of the 4 issues that you're offering. Now, I'm a veteran. served in Vietnam. I'm certainly sympathetic to other veterans. But when I looked at that list, they were all about not fair services, but extra services, extra benefits, extra entitlements. I couldn't really argue with any of them. If we had a giant pool of money or a bottomless pit of money, I wouldn't mind reaching in there and giving some of it, but we don't. There's no magic bucket of money in America. And so I said to them, knowing that they would be upset, I'm sorry guys, there's only one of the four I can support, and it had to do, I think, with the families of veterans and maybe some of the families of combat veterans from Iraq. I can't really remember. He was furious with me, called me to tell me so, chewed me out a while, and then I dared to say, sir, I'm sorry, but if you guys are about self-service, this really shocked me because I thought that a group of veterans, I mean, these are people that made a lot of sacrifices for America, would be more conservative in their value system. But if you guys are just about you, then that's about self-service, and you might want to vote for the other guy because I'm not going to be your guy, or words to that effect. He hung up on me. Happened to consider, don't come back, told my volunteer or something, don't come to Rutherford County because you're not welcome here. It happened that very weekend we were going there for an event. He was gracious. He asked one of the volunteers, when he gets here, can I meet him and apologize? He was very gracious. And he apologized, and I think I accepted with equal graciousness. And then he began to go right back into me about how I was wrong. And before it was all done, he was fast and furious with me. He's got a letter in the Mountain Express today just giving me heck on these issues. And it's really been a kind of a shock to me in some ways. I think it illustrates the point, how these folks that have sacrificed so much, their view of America today would be about what's in it for us. In contrast to that, you may have heard I'm the guy that dared suggest that the Cherokee nation might be running a rigged deal over there. That you can't be a sovereign nation and then part of America and getting benefits from America at the same time. That there's something wrong about being able to use tax benefits or money that you get from the government to lobby that same government. There might be a little corruption there, and I especially have a hard time with the casino. As an individual, I can tell you, as a psychologist, I don't think you uplift anybody with gambling and alcohol. But it's rigging the deal. The casino's okay over there, but it's not okay in other places. So I dared hold up my hand and say, hey, I don't think this is right. Nothing against the Cherokee people, but the system. A lot of people mad at it. It's not the way to begin a congressional campaign. You're trying to endear yourself to the voters. Obviously, I'm not. That may be where I get some of that anti-campaign stuff. My goal is, again, not to seduce people. Some of my supporters jokingly say, my volunteers will jokingly say, what's your goal? Are you trying to anger every constituent group you have in western North Carolina? And some days it seems that way. But one of those folks happened to invite. I think I better keep my hands out of my pocket. There's something going on there. One of these folks invited me to come to the Snowbird community to meet with them. And I knew I was in trouble when I got there, and I was putting up a sign out in front of my vehicle by the road, and somebody pulled up the pickup and said, who are you? Or no, they didn't say, who are you? They said, what are you doing here? I said, well, I'm here to speak to this group. Well, you shouldn't be here. You need to go away. You're not welcome here. I said, well, I'm sorry. I'm here by invitation. I'm going to follow through on that. And she said, well, I'm the head of this group, and I'm telling you, you are not welcome. Words to that effect. I said, I'm sorry. I'm going to play this out. She drove off. I invited her to come back and stay with us. She drove off. She did, to her credit, come back later. The assistant director of that group, who makes a great meatloaf, by the way, invited me to have a cover dish dinner, which was the second best one I've had in western North Carolina. The first best was in Yancey County, where they had 7 kinds of home canned green beans. I love home canned